Sir, yes, sir. Look like we about live over here, man. We back in for another live Down the Spirit conversation. For some reason, I be feeling a little cringy saying podcast, nothing against it, but it's just too down to earth or down to spirit gentlemen having a conversation here. But the topic today is heaven for real. You tuned in with the one and only mental coach Kev and Sound Off the General. Sound off, man. How's your day, man? How's your mental space going?
Man, it's pretty good, man. Mental space, it's pretty good, just a little tired. How about yourself?
Man, I'm feeling pretty cool and vibrant, man. I've been over here trying to do a little cleaning. Got some family coming in town. What else I did today, man? A couple of different things. Put a new battery in a car. Car we selling
Okay.
today. You know, I had to, do that. I'm not a big vehicle car type of person or whatever. I'm more into music equipment, taking that apart and putting that together. But hey, I pulled it off and did my thing. So
That's what's
I got
up.
that together, drove it around and aired the tires up. You know how it go. But yeah, man, mental space is good, man. Just did my meditation today as usual. Set up, kind of segment intended my day on how I want my day to go, and I've been
Right.
following that pattern, man. I just want everything, hey, anybody and everybody I come in contact with today to be a joyous experience, man, positive vibe, and then each segment to go good and be safe throughout each segment that I have. But man, is heaven for real? Interesting subject. What y'all think out there? Is heaven for real? Um, I've been watching a number of near-death experience videos, and to
Yeah.
explain that, I think we talked about it before. It's like when a person might have some sort of, they might die for a little bit and come back, heart might stop and they might get shocked back, or um, they might have a experience where they having some sort of procedure done and maybe something goes wrong with it or whatever the case may be, and they might leave for a segment and then come back into their body. Um, they've been some interesting experiences that I've been noticing on YouTube. If you want to check out some yourself, go to YouTube and just type in NDE or near, the D word experiences. I think they be, kind of flagging when you say, uh, I guess I already said the word before, but yeah, I know what I mean. So what's your take on it, Sound Off? How you feel about it?
You know, well, I'm kind of the opinion, man, that I think heaven is if I would say, is a state of being,
State of being? Okay.
a state of being, and I say that because um you can hear somebody talking about I'm going through hell or I'm going through a lot. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I felt like when your life is chaotic and out of balance and you're going between places, I felt like that situation, I'm trying to get my words together. I just kind of feel like it's a state of being just because you can have that peace, you can have that serenity, you can have that joy, um you can have all of those things, and I don't know, what I'm saying, per se, if it's necessarily a real place. When you talk about those ND experiences, as I've seen several times, seen these experiences when they give their accounts, they talk about everything that they were described or told while they were here living before was a total opposite of when they got to the other side.
Uh-huh. Yep.
You know,
That's what I noticed as well. I'm like, man, I've noticed a number of different people who might have been, Christians, Catholics, people from different religions, denominations, and non-believers, atheists as well. People who totally stepped away from God or don't uh believe in God first off, or some people who I seen this one particular lady that said she was in the, involved in the Catholic Church, and then some things started happening with, I guess, some of the priest and, you know, how would I put the word, and the kids, them doing, abusive stuff to them.
yeah.
Um, and it caused her to just, lose faith in God, because it's like, how could all of this, how could God allow this to happen, so to speak? But anyway, I've seen a number of different people talk about their account, and then it's a lot of similarities with it. I noticed people talk about, how it's so much different, like you said, different than what we would expect. the love, the feeling there, the vibe there. You don't have any attachment to the negative stuff. The colors are brighter. I've seen people mentioning, seeing Jesus in places, feeling God, God being
Yep.
everything, that you feeling God or a connection with God in a way of the plants, the every type of, life space is there, that it's all a connection. And then I noticed people talking about having like a telepathic type of communication type of system to where they really ain't talking through their mouth, they're talking through their mind, so to speak. But I'm like, do we even have mouths in heaven, or what?
Yeah.
And then a lot of them people, they might have had the experience to where they, like I say, different faiths, and then a number of these people keep talking about going to the same particular type of space, and it wasn't actually a hell.
Yep.
And I know when I was younger, man, like the idea of going to hell just seemed weird to me. I'm like, man, it just, it was real fearful for me as a kid, being in church and you hearing,
Same here.
man, if you mess up and you do this one thing, you don't repent and you blah blah blah, you gotta watch your steps. You know what I'm saying? Is it's hard for a rich man to go into heaven, and if you talk
Went
about
to
putting the
heaven.
camel
Yep.
through a needle and all of that. That's how hard it is. I'm
Yep.
like, man, so it scared me as a kid, man, and then that fear, which I'm like, fear is on the opposite end of the spectrum of connection and love.
Of love.
With that fear, it caused me to start questioning things. I'm like, man, when we talk about God being this complete love entity, how does hell make sense in a mix of that? Like, having a person go to a place where they would experience torment for forever. Like, it just didn't seem like it made sense to me as a kid. So caused me to start exploring more and questioning things. What was your experience with as a kid with the idea of like heaven?
Oh man. So, you know, growing up in church, you always hear that you have to be, not just a good person, but you have to be a believer to
Yeah.
enter into heaven. You know what I mean? And which I always, as I got older, I found interesting because like, every denomination or religious entity has some type of picture of what heaven is gonna be like. You know what I'm saying? So it just kind of like, well, how can, if I'm Christian, I'm going to heaven, but the Muslims got to heaven, but in my book, they going to hell.
Yeah, exactly.
You
So it's
know
like, are they going to hell or is it a different heaven?
Yeah, yeah, it's a different
They got
places,
their
you know
own.
what I'm saying? Like,
Man.
yeah, man, it's crazy. So, and then what was interesting too is like you said, the fear component of like hell was trembling. You know what I mean? Like I was a kid and I remember, man, how kids talk, oh man, you drop the Bible, you're going to hell. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Just like all those little fears behind things. And, when I got to a place, when I got older, I started really, like I said, coming to a place of understanding of feeling like, heaven is a vibration. It is an energy. It is, what I'm saying, when you're in a state of bliss and joy where you find just peace, you know what I'm saying? That is like a heaven on earth. That is heaven. You know what I'm saying? It's a state of being. But then also you can have hellacious stuff going on in your life, you know what I'm saying, to where you feel trapped or damned or negative, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So um I kind of lean more now to the, like I said, it's a more of a vibration. I felt like, every day you have the ability or the choice to choose what you want to experience.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Because like you were just talking about how you segment and tend your day. And I was telling you, in previous episodes, like how I command and demand my day to be, a certain kind of way. You know what I mean? And so far, as the more I do it, the more my days are lining up with that. And that doesn't mean I don't have a rocky day here and there, but it's not like just everything is going crazy.
Yeah. Man, so I hear a lot of people talking about, how you can have your heaven on earth and all that. And then I see people that have these near death experiences that talk about their experience being so blissful in the state of what they consider to be heaven when they be done left their body. It's interesting because they might be, let's just say, on the gurney or something like that, and then they end up, let's just say passing for that little time. And then before you know it, they hovering above their body, looking at what's going on in the actual room as they having surgery, or whatever the case may be. Um, And then talking
Mhm.
about how when they go into the space of, heaven or the spiritual space, whatever you call it, a lot of them call it heaven. You know what I'm saying? They talk about how it's just
Mm.
this intense love. They talk about how they even get an account of the things that they did in life, how they affected people, whether it was good or bad, being able to actually feel the emotion of the individuals that they, helped in a good way or harmed in a certain way, and being able to kind of, how would I put it, judge, for lack of better words, themselves on the experience that they had as they was living
Right.
in this particular life. So yes, it's definitely interesting to me, man. And the more I'm watching these NDEs, and I'm just saying that for short, if somebody tuning in later, is near, and then the D word is like the word of when you passing away. We trying to keep from having to say it here on this platform. And then the E is for experience. So yeah, when I type that into YouTube and start seeing all these different videos and seeing how these people just have similarities in a story, man, it's interesting. Um, and then it's a movie that we watched
Yeah.
not too long ago. I think it's called is Heaven for Real or something like that. I think that's the name of it.
Yeah.
Something for people to check out. I think it is Heaven for Real. Heaven is for real. That's what it's called. And it's about a kid in that movie, and the kid actually didn't even really pass, but had some sort of medical situation or something. I think appendix might have burst or something like that, and then had to go and have rush immediate surgery. And then during that surgery, he was in there. The parents was stressed and worried about their kid because it was looking like their kid wasn't gonna make it. The dad was actually I don't want to give away the movie, but this might make you watch it. The dad was actually he went to, I guess, the chapel area of the hospital, and he was in there just mad, angry at God. He was praying like, "Why my son?" and kind of pushing some pews or whatever the case may be. And then the mom, she was actually in a waiting room, and she was actually calling people, asking people to pray for them and her son. So the kid, when the kid got finished with the surgery and all that stuff, mentioned all of these things. Like, yeah, Dad, you was yelling at God and this, and that, and that. And Mom, you was in there asking for people to pray for us, and mentioned meeting Jesus, and mentioned a lot of things about the experience. Even I think I don't want to give away the movie, but yeah.
Yeah.
So and this was based on a true story, right? So and I'm
Yeah.
seeing more and more similarities with this. So my question be like this, man. Now, hey, I go to church. I'm in there. I'm reading the Bible. I'm still trying to figure out things and learn things. I do have a lot of spiritual background with what I do, and some of the people that I deal with in the coaching space. But I'm just wondering, like, man, where does the truth lie? In the midst of things. I do hear a lot of people mention Jesus, even people like Muslims and all of that. They gonna, what I'm saying, talk about Jesus, and a lot of these people that had these near-death experiences mention Jesus, but it might not be in the perspective of how other people think it is. One thing that the kid did point
Right.
out, though, on that movie, he mentioned that Jesus had, I guess, like kind of holes or whatever you would call it in the arms and the leg area. So that would signify the crucifixion thing. But then some people talked about having younger bodies and having their loved ones that meet them and greet them, but they have like they're in their younger version. So man,
Yeah.
it's an interesting
Yeah.
topic, man, and I know people have a lot of different ways they feel about it. And people out there in the world, if you're on the live, what's your thoughts about this? Like, how do you feel about is heaven for real, and how does heaven look like to you, or the idea of heaven, you know, and in some of your religious spaces or whatever the case may be. But yeah, that's my little spiel. So what do you got to add on to that sound, off?
I was no, I was just gonna say like from comedic spirituality, like my time studying that, it spoke about when we pass, we go back into what we were. You know what I'm saying? And what I mean by that is like we're all source having a human experience. We're all God having a human experience. You know what I'm saying? Because everything and everyone is God. So it's like the way it was explained is like, you think about a drop of water out of the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Is it different than the ocean? No, it's the same thing.
Yep.
It's just one aspect of the ocean, just a smaller portion. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, you know, it explains why, like, in the spiritual community we'll say love and light and things like that, but you are love and light, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it explains why when people have those near passing experiences,
Uh-huh.
you know what I'm saying, that they feel all of that love and they feel all of that bliss and they feel all of that joy because that's what we come from. That's what we are. So we go back to that. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, from the near passing experiences that I've seen, they'll talk about, you know, they'll be swallowed up in love, and even like you said, they're having the account of their life and all that, but they didn't feel just per se bad or like they was eternally, you know,
Damn.
destined for the damn the destined, you know what I'm saying? Like like they had a sense of feeling of, man, I hurt this person now, I wish I could have done better, or I wish I would have did things differently, or things like that. And it's like, it's so funny because from every experience that I've seen of those near passing experiences, they always come back talking about they had a depression or something because it was so much love where they were at.
Yeah, and coming back here, and it's like, yeah, a number of people
Yeah,
I've seen mention that too. That's like, man, there's so much love, and it felt so great there. But then coming back to have to be in his body, it was like weight. It was like having this meat suit of a weight that embodied and came with all of these negative feelings and pains and different things that people the bad part of life, so to speak, the things that people don't like to experience, the negative emotions, the hurts, the
right.
sorrows, the pains, all of that stuff, and them being in that free space. And a lot of them were saying that they would, actually want to go back there. And like you said, come back and have a depressed, go into a state of depression from, having that great experience and then coming back into this world. So that leads me to, ask a question of this. Is like, okay, some people mention that we come on Earth to actually learn a lesson, to learn some lessons.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So, and I know that kind of might go against what some people might feel in their particular religion. Now, some people even believe in the idea of us coming here multiple times. And me, I got to the point where I believe that, okay, man, we might have multiple
I agree with that
existences,
too.
right? And I seen a young man, a kid that was on the Oprah show, and he was talking about how he had this military experience, and he was mentioning this flight pilot, and was fascinated with the flight pilot stuff in reference to military, and mentioned some experiences with that, and the parents was like weirded by it, but then they started researching it and then found some actual military group that the kid end up being connected with and start sharing stories with them, and then they come to believe that that was the actual member of their particular military group that had passed away in some sort of flight war experience or something like that. So, and it's been a
Right.
number of different situations like this. So you can go and find a lot of different stories of kids or grown people mentioning having these insights or visions of having past existences. So I wonder how that would go. But then that kind of could be in alignment with what do you call it? Uh, resurrection is resurrection kind of idea of reincarnation, but reincarnation is another body, huh? It's like being
Yeah.
go ahead, I'm listening. I thought you were about to say something.
No. It's different because, like, as far as Christianity is concerned, it's like once you die, you either in heaven or hell, and from one of those two places, you know what I'm saying, you'll come back in the last day, and you know you'll be alive again, and it'd be like it's like a just a different experience.
Yeah. And some people, they mentioned something about 150,000 people just gonna be the only ones that's gonna make it into heaven, so to speak. And then some people talk
Yeah,
about, a person after they pass away, then they just stay in maybe a sleep state until Jesus comes back, so to speak. I'm confused by it.
yeah.
But but then the people who had a near death experiences mentioned near passing experiences mentioned that they talk about their loved ones that beat and greeted them, like oh my great granddad or my granddad was there, my grandma was there, or my so and so family member that passed away greeted me.
Mhm.
But then you might have some scientists that feel like that's just something that happens in the mind when a person is going through the experience of passing away. I don't know, man. I'm seeing too many similarities with some of these people's stories, man. But like I say, it's a lot of consistent things. The Jesus thing is one consistent thing with it. Because one guy mentioned that he ended up seeing Jesus in some space where it was like, I guess, some area where it was like a lot of kids was at, and the kids was kind of like a playground
Uh,
type of area, and he was there. Um, and then somebody else might have mentioned, the kid mentioned seeing Jesus, and actually um end up referring to a painting that another person who had a near passing experience had, and then painted their vision of what they felt like Jesus would look like in that space. And then the kid saw that one and was like, okay, that's him, that's what he looked like. Which was different than, the normal picture of what people see, that, with the hair and, you know what I'm talking about, the long hair and all of that, the normal Jesus picture that a lot of people have. Hmm.
right.
Interesting though. Interesting topic. I'm sure it's a lot of people that have a lot of these questions that, we didn't say it here, and some people might even be afraid to even mention it. Because when I was younger, I felt afraid too. Like, man, how do I
Yeah.
even question, what I'm learning about God? And it seems like any question, you got something to add on that?
Yeah, so it was just interesting, like earlier when you were talking about like, you know, the fact of you going to hell forever, right? So my thing is like, if God is supposed to be a father,
Mm.
correct? What father do you know would banish their child forever and never have an opportunity of reconciliation? You know what I'm saying? Reconcile. You know
Man,
what I'm saying? Like for me, that
what he
just
said
doesn't.
be dads though,
Yeah,
I
I
can say
mean,
that in a joking way.
you
So
got a good point. Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you said
some days like
it.
that. I know some guys, young men right now, man. I ain't seen my dad since I was, a year and 2 years old. My mama told me, or I ain't never
Yeah, but I
seen my.
mean, in the sense of, I mean, from the sense that you love your child, though.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I
Like you loving your child. Could there be anything that your child does so wrong? You just like I'm never.
yeah. So that
You
makes
know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like even if they do the wickedest or the horrible most horrible things, at the end of the day, they're still gonna be your son.
yeah,
There's still gonna be love there. You know what I'm saying? So it just, that was one of the things I had, questions about, I had issues with, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Because, you know, my also, when it comes to like, is heaven or hell real? Like, what happens to the people that can't talk or
Mm,
can't express for themselves? You know what I'm saying? Or mentally cannot understand.
mm.
You know what I'm saying? Do they go to heaven? Do they go to hell? Where do they go? You know what I'm saying?
That's
Like,
a good question. And that's one of the questions that popped up in my head too. I'm like, what about this? Or maybe a kid that's autistic, or maybe a kid that has this particular ailment or issue. A kid that's mute that can't really speak or talk, or a kid that that's deaf that can't hear like they would like to, whatever that has some sort of handicap or disability, so to speak. What happens with them? Is it grace in that particular case? So with some of them things, when I think of when I think about that, it makes me feel like, wait a minute, it's something in this space that we actually ain't getting with some of the stuff that we've been taught. You know what I mean? I'm like, it's something in there that we ain't getting.
right,
But then some people have a
right,
cop out to be like, okay, we'll never
right.
know all from this space here. We'll never understand it all, and just have faith with the rest of the stuff.
I think, right. And I agree with you. I think, like, unless you're one of those individuals to have a near passing experience, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? There's no way for you to really know until you get there. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, because all the accounts, I remember one in NDE experience, he was talking about how he was getting ready to go into another body. You know what I'm saying? He was going to send them over and do it all over again because he didn't learn the lesson that he was supposed to learn. And it's like, you know, that thought of that. So when I was studying Kemetic spirituality, it also talked about soul contracts and coming in like as a soul, you come in, there's lessons that you want to learn. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? Like one of my lessons I was wanted to learn in this lifetime is of self-love.
Self-love.
You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes, you know, we as people, we have experience, we wonder like, well, why is it that, it feels like mommy or daddy don't love me? You know what I'm saying? But
Mhm.
it's for my situation, it was like, not to say my parents don't love me, because they do,
Yeah.
but like in a situation of where I had to find out what love is for me,
Hmm.
what love means to me, and what I feel about myself.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So other people have, some people have lessons over power, or relationships,
I
or
feel like
what I'm saying?
forgiveness is one of mine.
Yeah, forgiveness. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like we have certain lessons we have, and sometimes we have to see those lessons over and over until we learn them lessons. And then there are some situations where they would say, I can't remember if it's the second D, you know what I'm saying, as far as experience, you know what I'm saying,
Uh-huh.
passing,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like it's um not remembering who you are, or not learning the lesson.
Yeah, and then coming back and having to do it again to learn that
You
lesson.
have to do it again.
And,
Yep.
and that's what that's the question that I have too, because I done read in a lot of different books where people talk about, okay, we have certain soul contracts where we come here to have a certain experience to learn a new lesson. Sometimes we even switch roles where this person might be the dad, this is the mom, and then next time this might be the kid, or this might be
Yep.
mom. And that kind of pops up the antennas in my mind too. Like, man, is that really what it's about? And some of the people who had those near passing experiences, for people tuning in, we trying to keep from saying the D word, DEAT, you know, that word, spell the rest of it, because I don't know if they'll flag us. But in certain experiences, in some of them in NDE experiences, people mention how it was like, oh, it's a game, it just seems like people role playing or whatever. It's like it's all like a play, so to speak. People are just playing different roles to
Yep.
get different lessons. And what if it's really like that? And then once people pass, they realize that, oh man, it was far from what I thought it was gonna be. Because them people who had those experiences where they done passed and came back, they talk about how it was different than what they expected. But a lot of them have consistencies in what they experience. All different religions, uh, all different races. I done seen all type of different people mention all these similarities in it. But one of the commonalities is, we here to, love, excuse me, look, lead with love, really pay attention to how you make people feel and how you affect people, because you're gonna get an account on that on when you pass. And that could be that area when people talk about, life flashing in front of they, whole life flashing in front of their eyes and kind of seeing their life real quick. That
Yep.
could be
No, I
part of it.
agree.
And what if the pain that you have, like what people consider to be hell, is you going through the experience of having to feel how you affected other people in their life. Okay, say if you took the
That's a
life of
good
a
one
lot of these
too.
different people, or you and harmed these people in so many just god awful ways. um then you have to actually feel that and take that feeling on. So imagine feeling that, versus feeling, a lot of love from the love that you gave people. Imagine having a life review to where you got all these experiences of love of all these people, just you tapping into the way they feel in different points of their life, to where you then affected them in a great way, to where you just made their day, or you turned their life around, or you gave them some nugget of hope and belief, to where it caused them to go and be a brighter light and go and shine and be that light to other people, and seeing how that affected other people in a great way, versus harming this one person, abusing this one person to people, and then watching that abuse and negativity trickle out into, spread out to a lot of different individuals. So what if that is actually the version of hell? You going through and in a karmic way, experiencing what you did to other people. That's crazy. And a lot of them
Right.
mentioned in that space that
Absolutely.
time isn't a thing either. Like they said, they had been had this whole experience of life review and going around in these different, parts of spirit and seeing Jesus and this and that, and then it been, 5 minutes or something, down in the physical world, which is interesting too. It's like this time distortion thing. I do hear people talking about spiritually, time isn't really a thing. Like everything is going all on at once, past, present, future.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like
Yeah.
which of this stuff is real? And some people just grow up with believing a belief that they get put on them and introduced to them as a kid, through family or whatever the case may be, or culture. And then now they go down the road of this, belief system, and not really allowing themselves to think for themselves and believe for themselves, and experience what actually resonates with them, what God is telling them personally is the right thing for them. Who knows, man? I guess the truth is, lies in between somewhere, and we gonna see it when it's that time. And then when that time happens, how do you report back and tell people, "Hey, listen here, man. It ain't how you expected it. It's a lot different." You know what I'm saying? The only people that I know that do that is the people who have those experiences where they beat and passed for a bit and then came back. Huh? So, are they
Yeah.
able to speak on it? Is what they saying real? Is this person that just talk about this religious book that they done read for all of these years and believe strong in that and then say that that's the truth? Is that more true than this person who had experience where they went to, out of their body, so to speak, to the spiritual side and then came back and reported back? Whose is more true? Good question. Man, I know we had some glitches on this live, man. I've been seeing saying something about the connection doing something weird. I don't know if that's because of what happened with the storms, because we had a lot of tornadoes and stuff out here, man. And I want to take time out to you know, say, man, send up a wonderful blessing of comfort, man, and love and support for the people in is it Lake City that had and it's been people all over, from different cities. I don't want to just say the people that's in Arkansas, but the people in surrounding areas too, because I think the other day they said it was like maybe 30 or so tornadoes, man, in the midst of 24 hours or something like that. And what's crazy is we talked about listening to God in one of our episodes. I was up early Sunday morning, and I think I did my prayer meditation, whatever I do, but the word tornado came to my head. I don't watch the news or any of that. I just kind of go with what I feel or what, God's spirit tells me. And, it's been moments where I didn't had things that came to me and the stuff has been real and it's been a whole lot of time. So we got to the point to where, my wife convinced me to start writing this stuff down. And I mentioned this before, and then we would write it down and then see it come true. And one of the things that I wrote down, and I don't want to take too much time to hold people up or whatever, but let's see what I wrote down on here was it was Sunday, March the 30th. It was like the word tornado popped up in my head. I think during meditation it was in a light way. Also, I got the feeling that it may be somewhere close, but needing to help, or the idea of helping the people. But anyway, and then Sunday, I think it might have been one or so that happened, and then here come a couple of days after that, which was Wednesday, I think it was. Man, a massive amount of stuff going on, and then we even lost. I think we lost power that day and stuff too, which is light compared to people losing their homes. So, man, if anybody listening on here and got the heart to
Right.
help people, I end up searching on Facebook. I just search like support for Lake City victims or tornado victims or whatever, and you'll see a lot of people that's posting, "Hey, we need this, or we lost all of this, or we would love to have the necessities like toothbrushes, this, or my kids need some clothes because we lost everything. Here's the cash app, or here's the support center." So, hey, if we can send up a prayer for them, I have been praying for them. If you're into prayer, whoever it is out here, I feel like it is power in prayer. I noticed that, and maybe that's something we'll talk about too, because people have different ideas of if you should pray in a way to where you asking or really kind of in a more begging
Demanding.
state or
Yeah.
commanding. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And I listened to a video the other day where somebody was mentioning more of a command thing, but then I remember reading what is it, Mark 9:23 or Mark 11:24, one of them. But anyway, it's talking about belief and you know praying, but then believing that you don't receive the things that you're praying for. So if you're already in a level of belief, according to the Bible, of believing that what you kind of asking for, you're gonna have, what do you call it then? Would that be a prayer of like, Lord, please just deliver this to me and da 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 da? You know what I'm saying? Um, or
Yeah.
would it be, okay, Lord, thank you for this because I know that if I believe that I'm gonna have it, and just my level of belief according to what you say in the word, and we talking about the Bible here, y'all know people have different, spiritual books that they into. But in there, talked about if you had a belief, then I guess you can have it. Who knows? But anyway, let's believe that some of these people that's having these life changing events and lost a lot, and some of these natural disasters and stuff, or life, unfortunate life events, that they get what they need and have comfort in these moments. Hey, you got anything else? Sound off?
So it was interesting you brought up about the commanding. I think in that guy that talked about his NDE experience, he was talking about, the prayer being more of a command and demand and just aimlessly wishing,
Mm,
and so ever since I've heard that, I've kind of been into more of a command demand space myself.
mm. Man, dope. Let's see. It's a couple of books that I'm into, man, and one of them is called Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, and they actually mention that in there. And in this book, it's interesting because basically Neil had a gripe with God, and I think I mentioned this before, where he felt like, okay, God, why are you betraying me? Why I got all this going on in my life in a negative way? Why? And then, supposedly God started answering his questions and talking back to him, and it was through him, as he would get it, he would just kind of write it out on paper, and it turned into being a number of books. But it's called Conversation with God and ended up being a number of different volumes, let me say that. But in there, they mention that same thing in reference to prayer, like, kind of, in a commanding sort of way. And I want to find it and mention it, but I don't want to take up too much time trying to. Maybe you got something you want to talk about while I look it up. Sound- talk about prayer real quick. Well, let's see what we got here. The correct. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, so
The correct prayer is, therefore, never a prayer of supplication, but a prayer of gratitude. Basically, appreciation for knowing that what you asking for, God is going to deliver it to you. And supplication, I had to look that word up, which is the action of asking or begging for something earnestly or humbly. Hmm. So having that level of belief kind of goes against the begging part of it, right? If
right, right.
that's what it seems like to me, who knows? But how do y'all feel out there? But hey, that's all I got. Sound off. Man, I feel like we had a good time talking here with this conversation because I'm sure a lot of the questions we mentioned, man, there's a lot of questions other people have, whether they say they have it or not. You know, I'm sure a lot of people have it, and we want to apologize for whatever the internet is doing because I've seen a couple of glitches and pauses, and I hope this still turned out well enough for somebody to get something from it. Whether it's one, hey, we want to believe that it's way more than one that got something from this. You know what I mean? So
Right.
we want to be in a level of belief or knowing on that. So we're grateful for, a lot of people, being tuned in on this. And I think we might have lost you on the video sound off. But yeah, I'm just gonna say, man, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Y'all be blessed, bless yourself, do something good for yourself, as I like to say. Take time to realize what the idea of love actually is. When you find the most greatest definition and meaning for love, then start applying that to yourself. And then once you get to the point to where you can apply it to yourself in a graceful, repetitive way, daily way, then start doing it for other people. I am Mental Coach Kev. If y'all want to tune in with anything I got going on, I just kind of started a TikTok not too long ago, which is Mental Coach Kev, spelled the regular way. Go and tune in on there. I'm trying to be more consistent. Trying is a word of I'm being more consistent. Let me say that. That's more of a stronger word, as we are with this conversation or podcast here, because we just mentioned it out of the blue as it being a thing that we would do since we talk, on this type of level. Anyways, why don't we just put it on the live and start doing it as a podcast, so to speak? And
Yep.
we've been doing it consistently now for, man, a number of different episodes every Friday. So if I can keep that same consistency with the other social media spots. But yeah, Mental Coach Kev in those spaces, and you can go to mentalcoachkev.com too if you're in a space to where you need some sort of help with stress relief or any anxieties. I do have a free stress anxiety relief audio that's on their page. Feel free to go on there and download it for free. Get you some headphones, have your experience to where you can kind of spend that time with yourself and get that time to yourself. Um, yeah, that's all I got. Sound off. Tell them about what you got going on and how they can reach you again.
Yeah, just follow me on Sound Off the General on all social media platforms. Still tweaking the website, still working on that. So it's still up, but it's not complete yet. But yeah, so and I guess my final words would be, to you all is remember that you're divine. Remember that, after this is more. After this experience is more. you go back to come back.
Mhm. Right. And that made me
Yeah,
want to keep talking because I remember you mentioning about the ocean, and then and that particular way that you put it in reference to I guess maybe us being a drop of, or some drop of water or something from the ocean, and we might separate from it, but then we're able to go back to the whole collectiveness of the big ocean or body of water. And that's how it is with, like, spiritually, with us taking, coming off as a fragment from the whole of God, but then going back to be with God, you know what I'm saying, when it's, all said and done in
yeah,
this particular life experience. Most definitely, man. So anybody that is going through anything at the moment now, and some people have been through some loss here. A lot of people is going through loss now, and a lot of people are grieving, which I understand. The grief of having a loved one here that you have in this physical experience, and then they leave out. You know what I'm saying, through passing away, and then you wondering where they at, where they going. Some people wondering, okay, if they went to heaven or hell, or is it a heaven or hell? Hey, I would suggest going to watch some NDEs, which is near, the D word, passing experiences. Type in NDE on YouTube or something, and then see what comes up. And then I'm sure, hopefully, it will give you some sort of comfort of knowing where they may be in a more loving, wonderful space. Back to that whole that we mentioned, going from being a fragment as we are here in the physical space, back to being with the whole of God and full consciousness and love and all of that. And it might be something that tickles or trickles into your mind, convinces your mind in some sort of way for you to believe that they are in a better, greater space, and it may not be nothing to be as sad about. But I understand how it is with loss and grief, so I'm not taking anything away from that. But it might actually ease some of that pain to hear some of those other people's experiences of how they would rather be there than here. Not saying that you need to leave, because it's value in both, because we're here to learn. And finish the rest of your time learning in a great way. And what you learn, apply it and teach it to other people to help them to have a great experience here. But y'all be blessed, man. Thank y'all for tuning in. Again, it's Mental Coach Kev and the great Sound Off the General, man. Y'all be blessed and hold it down. We love y'all. Love yourself.